On this Tuesday night, Air Canada and the union land a tentative deal, what's being called an historic moment for flight attendants.
I think we're going to see a major impact across the industry.
And the turbulence for travelers claiming compensation. Where things stand between Russia and Ukraine, the security guarantees NATO nations are offering, and what they might need. Allegations of sex abuse by those enrolled in a program that's supposed to help troubled teenagers.
It definitely changed who I was as a person.
A Global News investigation. Plus, a separation of church and stable ground.
Because it's a weird thing.
Why one of Sweden's most cherished buildings is moving.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Air Canada is getting its planes back in the skies. Early this morning, it reached a tentative deal with the union representing its flight attendants. They had defied a back-to-work order, grounding all flights and disrupting plans for about 500,000 passengers. Normal service is now slowly being restored, but it is going to take some time. Neetu Garcha is at Vancouver's airport tonight. Neetu.
Donna, the era of unpaid work is over. That's what the union representing Air Canada's flight attendants is declaring after a tense standoff that grounded the country's largest airline.
Flights are taking off again. After 3 days of a full shutdown, the tentative deal was struck with the help of a mediator. Talks resumed late Monday, the first real negotiations since Friday. The union, CUPE, says the deal delivers transformational change, calling it a historic moment in its fight to affirm charter rights.
When governments stack the deck in favor of employers, unions are going to resist. I think the flight attendants prove that.
In a statement Tuesday, Minister of Jobs and Families Patty Hajdu said she's relieved, adding, the best agreements are the ones made at the table. The union didn't release details of the deal, but it argued its members put in nearly 35 hours a month on unpaid tasks, from boarding to safety briefings to post-flight deplaning. CUPE had rejected Air Canada's offer of an approximately 38% increase over 4 years, boosting top hourly wages to $94 and senior staff salaries to around $87,000 a year by 2027. CUPE said less than 18% of those gains reflected actual wage increases. The company had also offered new ground duty pay, a first for Air Canada.
This evening, we're going to have our first international departures. Those are critical for two reasons. We've got to get the crews abroad so that they can get their rest and come back, because right now all of our crews are in Canada.
Air Canada hasn't commented on the substance of the agreement, but says service will resume gradually over the next week.
I think you're going to see workers at WestJet and other airlines demand the same deal that we see at Air Canada. So I think we're going to see a major impact across the industry.
At Air Transat, also unionized with CUPE, flight attendants secured a 30% compounded wage increase last year. WestJet's current flight attendant contract expires at the end of this year.
This tentative deal may just change the playbook, not only for airlines, but for how federally regulated industries challenge the federal government's authority in disputes like this. Donna?
All right, Neetu Garcha at Vancouver International Airport. Thank you. As the dispute played out, thousands of passengers had their plans disrupted. Some shelled out for hotels and food and to get seats on other airlines if they could find them. Others have had their dream trips ruined. As Heidi Petrachik reports, claiming compensation could be a hassle.
Bill Parsons came to the Halifax airport seeking help.
To see if I can actually speak to a human being to get, try and get booked. I have a medical condition. I'm running out of my medication.
Many other Air Canada passengers doing the same across the country and around the world.
They're trying to find us something, but we don't know.
Lack of options and communication, something even customers who have made it home say they won't forget.
I don't think we're going to fly with Air Canada anytime soon. We're likely going to look at another direction.
Just as the process to get everyone to their destinations will take time, so will the process for passengers seeking compensation from Air Canada.
We had to look up a flight on our own. That was twice the amount that we paid total for our round trip ticket.
Air Canada said it couldn't rebook Maria Eugenio's flight from Rome to Toronto Sunday, and instead offered her Air Canada credit. She declined.
You're essentially giving me a store credit for a store I probably don't want to shop from anymore.
Air Canada is going to try to wash its hands by saying, here's a refund, get lost. don't fall for it.
His advice, seek compensation as soon as possible under passenger rights regulations. And if Air Canada doesn't deliver in 30 days,
serve Air Canada with small claims court papers. Don't negotiate, don't argue.
But for some, it's too late.
We're supposed to go to a market.
This Girl Guide is supposed to be on a dream trip to Scotland.
Yeah, I cried. We've been planning this trip for 2 years.
But after raising more than $5,000, the 10-day adventure evaporated overnight.
I don't understand how a company like Air Canada, who boasts so much on their profit sales, can't pay their staff. There was no course of action provided by Air Canada.
Compensation, no replacement for travel memories lost. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax Stanfield International Airport.
A drop in gas prices helped slow Canada's annual inflation rate in July, but the cost of things like groceries and rent still rose. Stats Canada says inflation dropped to 1.7% last month from 1.9% in June. Gas prices were down more than 16% compared to last year. That's largely due to the removal of the consumer carbon tax. The cost of groceries, though, jumped 3.4% annually, and shelter costs also rose 3%. The world is watching for an outcome after that extraordinary meeting at the White House Monday aimed at ending Russia's war on Ukraine. European leaders and Ukraine's president spent hours with the U.S. president, but Donald Trump's promise of a follow-up meeting between the presidents of Russia and Ukraine has yet to be organized. Today, European leaders met virtually, joined by Canada's Prime Minister. They're calling themselves the Coalition of the Willing and say they are ready to deploy what they call a reassurance force to Ukraine once hostilities have ceased. Whether that means troops on the ground is unclear. And as Jackson Proskow reports, there is still no peace to keep.
There are few signs peace is any closer in Ukraine. Overnight, Russian strikes killed at least 8 civilians and wounded 54, tempering any optimism about a deal to end the fighting.
As the leaders last night were working on advancing peace in Washington, Putin was busy bombing civilian targets in Ukraine.
You and President Putin are going to work something out.
That hastily assembled meeting saw U.S. President Donald Trump promise a one-on-one meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Russia's Vladimir Putin.
Ukraine will never stop on the way to peace.
The White House insists accommodations for a Putin-Zelenskyy meeting are underway.
We're going to find out about President Putin in the next couple of weeks. We're going to see where it all goes.
To stop the killings. Leaders who were in the room with Trump remain deeply skeptical of Russia's intentions.
When I look at the situation and the facts, I don't see President Putin really willing to get peace now.
There are reports Putin offered to meet Zelenskyy in Moscow, likely a non-starter given Ukrainian security fears. Russia's foreign minister suggested Ukraine should be prepared to give up land for peace. Territorial changes are often an essential component of conflict resolution, he said.
There is an opportunity now to end Russia's illegal war in Ukraine. And as I said, security guarantees are essential to any just and lasting peace.
Security guarantees from Canada, Europe, and the U.S. have yet to be determined. Trump says the U.S. will not put troops on the ground, even if others do.
They're willing to put people on the ground. We're willing to help them with things, especially probably if you could talk about by air.
Here, too, Russia is pushing back, rejecting the idea of NATO troops in Ukraine as unviable. A week of rapid-fire diplomacy has left the West no closer to achieving its key demand, that Russia end the violence. Jackson Proskow, Global News, Washington.
Israel's government has not yet responded to a Gaza ceasefire proposal that Hamas has agreed to. It involves a 60-day pause in fighting and the release of half of the remaining Israeli hostages. Qatari mediators and Hamas say it's almost exactly the same deal that Israel agreed to in May and Hamas rejected. As Redmond Shannon reports, a lot has changed on the ground in Gaza since then.
In Gaza, talk of peace proposals seems to produce only resignation. I expect Israel to reject the chance of a deal, says this man. But Hamas says the peace deal it has now agreed to is close to the same one it rejected and that Israel agreed to 3 months ago. A new 60-day truce would call for the freeing of about half of the 50 living and dead Israeli hostages, the release of a large number of Palestinian prisoners, a partial withdrawal of Israeli troops in Gaza, and more aid. It would also see negotiations for a permanent peace and for the release of the remaining hostages and more prisoners. Qatari mediators describe it as a pivotal moment, but Hamas's acceptance of the deal comes just days after Israel's government changed its stance, saying it now wants all hostages released at once.
We are sick and tired of hearing of a blame game. That one is to blame, this one is to blame, the time is not right. We've had enough.
Israeli media say the Netanyahu government is still studying the proposal for peace, just as it gets ready to go ahead with a military occupation of Gaza City.
I think it all depends on Donald Trump. And so far, Donald Trump has given them a green light.
As Gazans wait for a deal, the United Nations says the amount of aid getting to them is still nowhere near what's needed.
The risk of starvation is everywhere in Gaza. This is a direct result of the Israeli government's policy of blocking humanitarian aid.
And on Tuesday, the UN also said the war in Gaza is one reason that last year was the deadliest year on record for the killing of humanitarian workers around the world. Donna?
Redmond, thanks. The federal conservative leader's comeback. Coming up, what Pierre Poilievre's next challenge will be after winning back a seat in the House of Commons. Federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre will be heading back to Ottawa as an MP. He won a by-election in Alberta last night after losing the federal election and his seat in an Ottawa riding this spring. Mackenzie Gray reports on Poilievre's victory and what his next challenge will be.
It's Pierre Poilievre's comeback song after winning his way back into Parliament.
Getting to know the people in this region has been the privilege of my life. In fact,
the Conservative leader garnering a 70% margin of victory, similar numbers to past blowouts in the Conservative stronghold of Battle River Crowfoot in Alberta. It's a race Poilievre needed. After losing his Ottawa area seat in the general election, part of a 20-point Conservative collapse, Poilievre trying to put past failures behind him, painting his win as a redemption story.
The road to success is never a straight line. And most of all, you should never give up in hard times. Unleashing our industry.
Poilievre's next hurdle, winning a Conservative Party leadership review in January to keep his job, where he'll hope the large and enthusiastic crowds that show up at his events will vote to keep him on.
Mackenzie, I have to report this to the Ethics Commissioner.
But the biggest challenge of them all, overturning an increasing Liberal lead. New numbers from Nanos show the Liberals ahead by 12 points, with Poilievre trailing Mark Carney by 27% on preferred Prime Minister. Just one of many polls showing a similar Conservative dip since April's vote.
He needs to demonstrate to voters who ultimately did not choose him that, he's got the gravitas and the cooperative nature and the leadership to be the next Prime Minister.
One place the Conservative leader could make up political ground is in question period. Poilievre's attack dog style seriously damaged Justin Trudeau. And with Mark Carney having spent less than a month in the House of Commons, Donna, the Conservative leader will hope to force the Prime Minister into rookie mistakes.
Mackenzie Gray in Camrose, Alberta tonight. Thank you. Green Party leader Elizabeth May has told her supporters she will not be leading the party into the next election. May, who is the only Green MP right now, says she intends to stay on until a new leader is elected. May has led the Green Party through 5 federal elections. The federal government is investing in a new facility to process medical isotopes, which are used to help diagnose and treat cancer. $13 million will be spent on a second isotope production system at the Bruce Power nuclear plant in Ontario.
This is not just an investment in new technology, and it's an investment in life. Imagine a patient with cancer given a second chance at life thanks to the isotopes produced here. That is the power of what we're doing together.
The facility will allow for a significant increase in the plant's ability to produce medical isotopes. The government says the project will help ensure Canada maintains a steady domestic supply and expand export capabilities to global markets. Health Canada has approved Ozempic to help cut the risk of kidney decline in people with type 2 diabetes. An international clinical trial funded by the drug manufacturer showed Ozempic cut the risk of kidney disease progression and death by 24% compared to a placebo injection. Up to half of people with type 2 diabetes develop some form of chronic kidney disease. Allegations of sexual abuse ahead of Global News investigation. What 4 women say happened to them while enrolled in a program that's supposed to help troubled teens. The commander of the Canadian Army says 5 members of the forces have been suspended as part of an investigation into a video containing hateful conduct. Today, the commander put out a statement saying, in part, those individuals have been suspended from military duties pending a unit disciplinary investigation that is underway to determine the breadth and scope of the incident, and all appropriate action will be taken. The statement says the video is from 2023, and at one point it shows individuals performing the Nazi salute. The military maintains hateful conduct and extremism have no place in the Canadian Army. A Global News investigation has exposed allegations of sexual abuse linked to a private treatment centre for teenagers that has locations in Ontario and BC. It's called Venture Academy, and it claims to help youth with mental health issues or addictions. 4 women who went there say they were sexually abused as teenagers. Tonight, one of them is speaking out for the first time. Krista Hessey reports in a warning the story contains disturbing content.
It ruined my life. I'm still working to this day to try to get the pieces back.
When she was 16, Allison was enrolled in a residential treatment program where she says a man responsible for her care began sexually abusing her. Allison, which is not her real name, attended Venture Academy's BC location, which shut down in 2021. The company still has facilities in Alberta and Ontario meant to help teens with mental health issues or addictions.
I'm just sharing my story because I haven't had a chance to speak out.
A Global News investigation has uncovered years of red flags about Venture's vetting and oversight of its host parents, who house teens while they're in the program. A 2022 investigation by Ontario's Ministry of Children found half of Venture's host parent files were missing the required police record checks.
These kinds of programs are so exploitable by people who are looking to sexually abuse children.
This past January, Allison sued Venture Academy and her former host parents. In the lawsuit, she alleges her host father started entering her bedroom unannounced, giving her cigarettes and alcohol, and taking explicit photos of her and another student. She says that escalated to sexual intercourse, which occurred 50 to 100 times over 6 weeks.
It definitely changed who I was as a person.
While Allison's host father wasn't convicted of any criminal wrongdoing in her case, in 2022, he did plead guilty to sexually exploiting a different Venture teen and spent 28 months in prison. Meanwhile, Allison's civil suit is ongoing.
It truly does affect you forever. It doesn't just go away.
The host father did not respond to our questions, but previously denied Allison's allegations of sexual abuse. Venture Academy said in an email that 99% of parents agree that their child was safe and well supervised in the program, and that it is committed to safety, quality, and responsive care. Donna?
Krista Hessey in Toronto, thank you. Road trip next, the logistical challenge of moving a huge church. A skunk needed a helping hand getting out of a bowl at a skateboard park in Pennsylvania. Turns out all it needed was a board. A passerby used a skateboard to lower the skunk a leash. The skunk knew just what to do, grabbing it and holding on until the skunk was safely on level ground, and then it tried to take off with the board. In Sweden, there is a huge operation underway to move an entire church to a new location. It's happening after years of careful planning, and people from across the country have come to watch. The church is in Kiruna, one of Sweden's northernmost communities. Mike Armstrong explains the incredible challenge of moving a big church and why it's happening.
From a distance, you can barely tell it's even moving. But it is, slowly and steadily. In fact, really slowly. carried on 224 wheels at about half a kilometer an hour.
I didn't know what to expect. I had to see it because it's a weird thing and a big thing.
The Kiruna Church is one of the most beloved buildings in Sweden. It sat in one spot, like most churches, for 113 years. In a national poll in 2001, it was voted Sweden's most beautiful pre-1950 building. There's a reason many were holding their breath as it hit the road.
I was very nervous for the church moving because I was worried that it was going to fall apart, but it didn't, so I'm very happy.
Now, the reason for the church's move is to save it from possibly sinking. Kiruna's town center is right next to one of the world's largest underground iron ore mines. Some tunnels, in fact, go under the town, and the land above has been moving and cracking.
In Kiruna, we have known since 2004 that parts of the city has to be moved.
The church's new home will be in a new town center 3 kilometers to the east. Some other historic buildings have been moved already, and a new city hall opened in 2018. But the 600-ton church couldn't take a direct route. Instead, they created a winding and wide path 5 kilometers long and big enough for the structure to turn.
Big challenge. We can't go any other route than that one we have.
The mining company is picking up the bill for the entire town center relocation, several $1 billion. It's a project that won't be complete until the mid-2030s. The church, however, should arrive at its new home a little earlier, Wednesday. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
Slow process. That is Global National for this Tuesday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Air Canada showcases Harry Hill, Alberta, Lake Erie, Ontario, and a barn in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Keep them coming. Send your pictures of Canadian pride to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.